Hi, I'm David. First off, I am not a YouTuber. This is my first YouTube video. So it's gonna be what it's gonna be. I might curse. I fucking curse. That happens. I don't feel like that should be the first sentence I say. But anyway, regardless, the point of this is I am going to create a series. We're going to talk about Roanoke, Virginia. Why it's great. Why is Roanoke, Virginia worth living in? Is it worth investing in? I personally live in Roanoke. I invest in Roanoke. I believe both answers are yes, wholeheartedly. You want to live in Roanoke. You want to invest in Roanoke. Both have lots of pros. Of course, there are cons. Everything has cons. However, moving to Roanoke, Virginia, I think is a brilliant idea. It's a beautiful place to live. There's mountains, there's activities. The people here are really kind of nice. And this is coming from someone who did not grow up here. I moved here. That's a whole story, but I'll tell you. But anyway, if you're thinking about moving to Roanoke, Virginia, investing in Roanoke, Virginia, just visiting Roanoke, Virginia, I got you. And that's really the point of this series. I'm going to talk about Roanoke and the pros, the cons, and the real estate in general, because that is my job. I don't think I said. So my little backstory, I started my life in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That was home for my entire childhood. Went to school in Raleigh, go Pack. Spent some time in Louisiana working for an international paper. Long story short, ended up in real estate, performance-based career. That was not the plan. That was not the life goal. However, it is something I learned to love. I spent 5-6 years building a successful real estate business in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Worked well over 100 transactions. A lot of happy clients turned friends. A lot of friends turned clients. The whole shtick. Loved it. Enjoyed negotiating. Got good at negotiating. Fun market to work in. And then, it was just me growing up, wanting to live a life, meet a girl. So I met one, and she lived in Roanoke, Virginia. Long story short, fell in love with a girl in Roanoke, Virginia. But I also fell in love with Roanoke, Virginia, which made me pick up a business that does not move at all. So I lost, more or less, my Winston-Salem business and started fresh in Roanoke, Virginia. I got my Virginia broker license, and I've been here for 3 years now. Shannon and I have 2 kids here. I've started investing here, so I own a couple multifamily properties. We turned Shannon's house. I bought a house. We turned Shannon's house into a furnished finder rental. Anyway, why do you care? Well, Roanoke, Virginia has a lot of unique things, and this comes from someone who's kind of had to piece together what Roanoke is, how Roanoke became what she is. So kind of, the overview I've learned from being here and my understanding is Roanoke started as a rail town. Late 1800s, railroad was booming, and sitting here in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, she was a very important stop. So the town exploded in the early 1900s. So downtown Roanoke is old for America. You have 1900s homes all over, and you have a lot of old houses with old things. Knob and tube wiring is still actively around here. Driveways are a unique feature here because cars back then weren't what they are now. So if you have a house with a driveway very close to downtown, you're doing well. I don't know. What else to talk about? Harsh cut somewhere around that 450 something mark. I just started rambling. I'm sorry. I'm going to stay focused. We're going to talk about real estate. Roanoke. Why is Roanoke great? So let me do that. Okay. Roanoke. Here she is. Beautiful. Wonderful. So geographically, she's actually a valley. So Roanoke, Virginia is a valley in the mountains. You have lots of big old, well, not big, but 3,000 footers or so. Mountains here. You got mountains up on this side. Really, I-81 is acting as a nice little kind of geographic line. Mountains, mountains, mountains north of it, and then bumpy south of it. With good little peaks here and there, especially going up the Blue Ridge Parkway in the Blue Ridge Mountains, which, fun fact for you, ends up in Shenandoah National Park here. So the Blue Ridge Parkway does run directly through Roanoke, listen here, right through town on the lower side, southern side. And then Roanoke sitting here in the valley. You have the Roanoke River going through the heart of Roanoke City, all the way up to what did I do? Don't know. Another town, Salem. So Salem is independent of Roanoke. I think this is a Commonwealth thing. Virginia is a Commonwealth. Nobody I've asked really knows what that means. For some reason, I seem to think it has an implication in how cities are run, because Roanoke County is an entity versus Roanoke City is an entity. So let me show you, actually. I don't know if that's useful. Counties. Yeah. So Roanoke City, entity, votes separately. Roanoke County, entity, votes separately. Salem, entity, votes separately. I think this is a Commonwealth thing. If anyone knows, I would not mind being educated more than I am, because I could be wrong. Anyway, that is Roanoke, and then you have a lot of history here. Roanoke, unfortunately, has a lot of stigma. The people who have lived here forever and ever and ever, they only really like Southwest. So Southwest, Roanoke has kind of a quadrant feel to it. Even her city namings and addresses have Northwest, Northeast, Southeast, and Southwest. Anyone who's lived here forever is going to tell you that you don't want to be anywhere else other than Southwest. And the best I can figure is because that was maybe true for a while. Roanoke was rail town in the 1900s, industry up until the 1950s, and then industry left. Industry went over shores, and it seems like everybody who had money in Roanoke that was left and did not become impoverished when industry left Roanoke went to Southwest, and then even further they went into the county, Southwest County. So Cave Spring has a huge positive stigma. People think very highly of Cave Spring. Your price points reflect this. You're going to see a lot of more expensive homes here. You're going to see more expensive homes in Southwest City too, partially because of stigma, in my opinion, but largely more validly also because of care. So these older homes, so coming into Roanoke downtown area here, you have these older homes that have, some of them have been maintained and some of them have not. So Southwest has more maintained homes that therefore bring a higher value. You're talking 50 to 100 years worth of someone maintaining, investing, putting back into a house. And that has a lot of value versus parts of like Northwest, downtown area, parts of Norwich here, this part of Southeast here. Like, the neglect is very visible. You can drive through these streets and you can see that these are old houses that have not been taken care of, and that's a lot of cost to jump right into if you were to buy something. So that's why you're going to see $100,000 houses really close to Roanoke downtown, but a lot of that's because partially stigma, partially do your own research, and the house hasn't been taken care of. You have a lot of things that need updating. That's a whole tangent. But facts that you need to know, because when you're browsing, in general, you're going to notice some very different price points, and that's part of the insight as to why. You will see really big old houses in Old Southwest, a beautiful area, really close and walkable to downtown, and really old houses, some of which updated, maintained, nice. They will drive a $500,000 price point, maybe more. Not the case, then not the same price. All right, I should probably cut there. Stop. Cut. Start. I was doing more of a deep dive. That can be a later video. We can talk about Roanoke's caveats and Roanoke's price points in another video. That can be a whole video. This point is to talk about Roanoke's amenities. So, one of the really cool things, back to the river. You have the Roanoke River run in the length of the city. And Roanoke is really cool. They have been very intentional with flood zones. So the river, it floods. Who would have thought? Every now and again, you're going to have flooding. And this floodplain also parallels what I'm going to highlight. They've turned a lot of these floodplains into parks. Wasena Park, Smith Park. I forget what this one's called. It's a thing. There's a little tiny park here. This is Morningside Park, which actually isn't in the flood zone. This whole industry warehouse area is. That's a whole nother video. It could be on its own because that's a big project with a lot of money. But what they've done is they turned the length of it into a greenway. You have a greenway that spans the length of the Roanoke River all the way up and along, and making your enjoyment of nature all the more accessible. You can go walk for miles, bike for miles. It's connected here. Somewhere around here, they're still working on, no, it's not there. It's over here. They're still working on connections. So there's parts of it are done over here in Salem. Parts of it are done over here. Most of Roanoke is done. And then the goal is to have it 100% connected. So one day it will run the length of Salem all the way to southeast, where it stops up here at the water treatment area. So that greenway is awesome. One of the big draws. And then you have right here, Mill Mountain. There is a mountain with the Roanoke Star. If you haven't looked at the Roanoke Star, you should look it up. It's the Roanoke thing. There is a mountain very prominently here in the south side of town that you can see from the majority of town with a big fucking LED star on top that lights up every night. I think they built it in the 50s. It was like a Christmas thing they did one year, and they were just going to take it down, and then everyone liked it, so they didn't. And now it's become iconic. So yeah, there's this big mountain here, well, a mountain here, and there is a star on top that is visible from a lot of parts of town. Yeah. And so there's the Blue Ridge Parkway. We talked about that. There's the Roanoke Greenway. We talked about that. And then up here, you have mountains. So you have hiking and hiking and hiking and hiking. You have McAfee Knob here. It's not McAfee, it's McAfee. I know. The Carvin's Cove Reserve is amazing for mountain biking. Mountain biking on Mill Mountain, big pro. All this to say, Reed Mountain Preserve, good hiking. That's a nice mountain. Good little view of Roanoke. This is what's bringing people here. You have amazing outdoor opportunity. If your hobbies are anything outdoors, walking, biking, mountain biking, hiking, just enjoying nature, Roanoke has a huge draw. You get 4 seasons. You have decent weather. I mean, summers are hot and winters can be somewhat cold with some snow, but it's not, dumping snow. So your winters are mild. You get a snow, that's nice. It doesn't tend to stay, that's nice. And then summers are humid and hot because we are in the valley, but you still have these mountains and then all the time in the world to go enjoy a dip in the river. Explore Park has nice access to the Roanoke River if you want to go to the river. Carvin's Cove, actually, they're jerks. It's privately owned by the water company. They don't let you swim, but you can boat and paddle on it. They'll let you do that. Yeah, so a nice swim. There's lots of creeks, lots of fun little places to go find a cool place to hang out in the summer. So your draw here is very much so not only hanging out outside and outdoor living, it is also fairly walkable of a town. And I think this goes back to how old it is, especially in these growing parts like Wasena and Grandin area. This little yellow spot, I think, is intentional on this map to kind of highlight some commercial space. There's like a little mini downtown here in Wasena. And it's very walkable on the Greenway to get over here to another little mini downtown in Grandin, where you have some stores, fronts, some shops. There's a cute little coffee house over here. There's another fun place called Pops over here, where you can get a really good milkshake, an actual like old-fashioned soda pop. They make the soda, whatever, an old theater, and then the co-op is over here, so you can get your natural, locally sourced groceries. So like walkability in these neighborhoods is 100% feasible, because the Greenway gives you nice connection. You can walk to downtown if you really felt so inclined from over here, but that's where Old Southwest kind of gets the better end of the stick. There's a couple little restaurants. Evie's is down here in a nice little spot in Old Southwest. There's a huge park right here. So like your quality of life and your walkability or your bikeability are all things that really pull people to Roanoke. Plus it's still affordable. Like you can buy a pretty good sized house for about $300,000. I mean, if you have more money, you can buy a really, really nice house. So again, that can be another video. But like those are some areas worth highlighting. I mean, I could talk about Southeast. I could talk about Garden City. I mean, you can talk about up here, what's going on with, near the Valley View Mall. Like there's a lot to think about when it comes to Roanoke, and there's a lot of potential when it comes to investing, because you have options for just long-term rental, but mid-term rentals are in high demand because you have 2 healthcare centers. Roanoke's bread and butter, economy-wise, is healthcare. You got Carillion Roanoke Memorial sitting there at the base of Mill Mountain, it's honestly a very pretty hospital aesthetically, the approach with the mountain behind it. And then you also have over here, you got Lewisgale, another big medical hub off of Electric Road, kind of the beltway-ish of Roanoke's southwest quadrant. Electric gets you all the way from over here all the way up. And then there's also the VA hospital. Salem VA Medical Center is in Roanoke. So yeah, a lot of medical, which leads to a lot of investment potential for Furnish Finder, 3-month contracts for travel nurses and traveling professionals. So that's what we've done with Shannon's house. It rents very well because, I forget if I've cut it out or not. I think I did. Her house was over here, which gives you the Greenway walkability access to the hospital. And I miss living over there. I lived with her in that house for a good while before we bought the one we're in now over here in Raleigh Court area. I miss the walkability of the Greenway being right across the street. But we still have walkability, because over here, even in Raleigh Court, we can get over here to Mudlick Greenway really easy. I take Rosemary over there a lot, my daughter, my oldest of the 2 BBs. And we get to Fishburne Park, a lovely park with a nice creek path and all sorts. So the outdoor living is phenomenal. The city has a lot of draws from sustainability aspects, walkability aspects, so you're bringing in a lot of diverse perspectives and affordability. So again, you're bringing in people who want to be here / can afford to be here and enjoy to be here. It's a quality of life that is desirable. I know that's just a ton of information. I don't know that it's fully useful, depending on your goal. I mean, if you're thinking of relocating to Roanoke, it's probably a lot more than you were hoping to know, so you're probably pretty happy. I have a lot more to say. I also have some resources. I'm going to put a form link somewhere, probably in the comment, or what is it called? I don't YouTube. The description. I know what that word is, description. That was a loud clap. I'm sorry for, again, the fluctuations. I will improve. So yeah, this is a series. Subscribe, follow. I'm going to improve and grow, as we all do when we want to and try to. See, I could have a whole personal little section. Anyway, my name is David. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to subscribe, because I will be doing more. I'm going to try and make it a habit, make it at least weekly. But yeah, there's a resource, a form, submit the form. I have things about if you're looking to move here, so a curated list of things to do, things to check out when you're here, kind of an itinerary for a really great trip, a weekend getaway, if you will. I also have some resources for investors. So I'll do more talking about investing and what those pros are in Roanoke. But a little P&L if you're looking to just kind of figure out your own thing. It's in there. It's free. And then house hacking. I'll do a video about house hacking because Roanoke has a lot of potential for that, for someone, because that was my dream. Well, one of my goals before I met a girl, and we had kids, and it didn't make as much sense. So house hacking, do a whole video on that, but there's a resource for that that'll probably be more relevant later. All right, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to say goodbye, and if you need me, feel free to reach out. Have a good day.